Hey, everyone. This is Andy Hall of the Disappointed Cat Morning Show. I hope you're doing well. If this is your first time watching the show, hello. You may call me Dr. Kennard, or you may not. You can call me anything you want to. So what do we do here? We talk about news stories. We have laughs. There are memes. There's videos. If you're watching on Facebook right now, I can't see what you're commenting, if you're commenting at all, but there is a link for you to head over to YouTube where you can join us, and you can join the chat. You can chat with other people. You can chat with me. As you'll see, that this is a very interactive show. You want to do something fun? Let's do something fun.
Random couples you'll see in the wild. 1. The reliables, who have been together so long nobody has any idea what they were like before. 2. The just give ups, who instead of calling it believe that reaching arbitrary romantic social goalposts such as marriage, kids, etc. will make them feel something again. It will not. 3. The oddballs, 2 trains that went so far off the track they smashed into each other, resulting in a very healthy train wreck. 4. The question marks, who once met one can only think, I have so many questions. And 5. The long distancers. Don't do long distance.
So I don't know about any of you who are viewing. I've been in number 3 and number 4. I've been in train wreck relationships, but it didn't turn out to be a healthy train wreck. And I've been in relationships where people just look and say, how did that happen? How did that happen? Right now, I would have to say that I'm in a very healthy and happy relationship. So maybe I've learned something. No, I probably didn't learn something. I probably just got lucky, to tell you the truth. I hope you're all doing well. I'm going to check out who's up in the chat. What's going on here? John Hudson, first person here. Good morning, John. And Tobin Templeman. 2 Texans, right? You guys are from Texas. Hope you're doing well. So this is I did drop my Amazon wish list. It's for this YouTube channel. I am primarily just trying to get equipment to level up my comedy bits. Basically, these comedy videos I've been dropping, these uploaded videos. Yeah, this is comedy too. But I'm going to be dropping down some comedy videos. And they are going to be primarily, or initially, for patrons and YouTube members. They're going to get first look at these. Actually, I just wrote a script for one this morning. I had this idea for a comedy bit. I wrote down the script, sent it to the girlfriend to see what she thought of it. And then, if I have time this Saturday, I'm going to film it. And of course, on Saturday, we're also doing here on the channel Atheists Drinking Out Loud. We have Neil, the 604 Atheist. We have Seamus from Free Thought Prophet coming on. Maybe Dave, Simply Secular Dave from the West Coast. And of course, our mystery guest. So I got a lot of stuff going on Saturday. So yeah, so, you know, and here's the thing, everyone, right? I've gotten rid of ads. And so if you can throw a couple of shekels in, please do. But if you can't, don't. If you're not in the financial situation. And you know, the thing is, I'm really good about not making money. The only thing I do all day is basically work with people who have disabilities. I think about comedy and pay attention to my girlfriend, my kids, and my friends. That's about it. And none of those are really money-making activities, to tell you the truth. So I'm going to continue this trend about not being financially successful and just say, if you cannot afford, or then don't give me money. Don't do it. If you do, then, and if you can't afford it, then thank you. I appreciate it. I put a fair amount of work, a good amount of work into the channel. I'm trying to be funny, trying to provide a valuable service for you. All right. And of course, on Sunday, I just want to say that we have independent filmmaker Joe Badon. He's made a couple of full-length movies, high quality, dirt cheap. He's coming on to talk about his newest project, and that's Sunday at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Wow, just like got a lot of things going on. Simply secular day. The temperature is better here too, sir. It's down to, I think we're just going to be in the 80s today, right? One of the stories we're going to be covering today is about climate change and about Joe Biden and the infrastructure bill. Scott Duke. Good morning, Scott Duke. I see you there. Remember Samy Jenkins. Oh, this is the last thing I see before going to sleep at night. Such a positive way to end my day. Well, you know, I don't think many people would consider me a bright, shiny light of positivity, Samy, but I appreciate the thought. Derek Cruz. I already say hello to Derek Cruz. I don't know if I did or not. Hello, Derek. Dr. Mordecai. Let's see. If you give money to Andy, you can go to heaven when you die. Oh, wow. You know, atheist heaven, right? Well, the thing is about my blog, Laughing in Disbelief on Pathos. If I had my way, there would be no ads on that blog. But, you know, it's run by Pathos. So, you know, I'm just one blogger amongst, I don't even know how many bloggers they have, probably hundreds at this point on Pathos. I can't tell you about the secret plan, but there is a secret plan. There's a plot. There is a scheme hatching. And I've dropped hints about that before, but that's still going on, everyone. There is like a secret Is it Operation Mongoose? Probably not Operation Mongoose. For those of you who know what Operation Mongoose was, and for those of you who don't, it was the aborted or the attempted overthrow of Fidel Castro, otherwise known as the Bay of Pigs. So there is some kind of secret plan being hatched that I make reference to, but I can't tell you any more about it because I'm legally bound. Glenn Chesterton, hope you're doing well. God equals imaginary God. Atheists' indulgences, indeed. Your darkness is my light. Well, that sounds like one hell of a greeting card, doesn't it, huh? Your darkness is my light. If that isn't a goth Christmas card, I don't know what is. All right. Do I have to? Well, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do, right? We're kind of like a Sindo-anarchist kind of collective here. Do I need to drop some Chomsky down? That's what I just did, I think. We're some kind of Sindo-anarchist collective. So you don't have to do anything. All right, so what do we do? Oh, Bill Cosby. We're going to be talking about Bill Cosby today. We're going to talk about Bill Cosby and the connection of Bill Cosby with the impeachment, the second impeachment of former President Trump, of Citizen Trump. Is there? Yes, there is a connection, in case you didn't know that. We're going to talk about Maine. We're going to talk about Maine and prostitution. We're going to talk about the climate disaster. We're going to talk about, there's so much to cover today, everyone. Churches burning. Another church burned down to the ground in Canada. We're going to talk about charges against the Trump Corporation. I'm going to try to get done. I'm going to try, everyone. I'm going to try to cover all of these stories in the remaining time we have, because this show runs until 5 minutes of 10. And then we do the after party after show, which is an open room. Link is in the description where you can come on and talk about whatever you want to. Today's show is only from 10 to 10:30 because I have to go to work. Usually it goes from 10 to 11. All right, let's do some memes. And then we're going to slide into the news cycle. Let's do this thing. First meme. Here it is. For all my Dungeons and Dragons gamers out there, it's her. He's probably cheating on me. The only thing we're doing. Everyone wants to think that they're SpongeBob. But in all reality, most of us are just Patricks, right? We all want to be the central character. But in all reality, we're just Patricks. But it looks like Patrick has some pretty sweet chainmail armor on. And if you can get some pretty sweet chainmail armor, that's pretty good. All right. Is there a cat meme? There's a cat meme. Me enjoying silence and super chill. That's me right there in the corner. That's me in the spotlight. Already lost my religion. That's the cat there in the first frame. That one friend who doesn't stop talking. It's like, why can't you just leave me there in the corner? So this last meme, it's informative. It's not funny. It's a snapshot, and it's going to dovetail into our Bill Cosby story. This is the first time, by the way, I found out about this aspect of Bill Cosby being freed. Here it is. Remember Bruce Castor, the lawyer who was mocked for his performance during Trump's second impeachment. His promise not to prosecute Bill Cosby, made back in 2005 when he was DA, is why a court just overturned Cosby's sexual assault conviction. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute, because Bruce Castor, the idiot who gave the incredibly incompetent opening statement for Trump's second impeachment, he was the dude who promised not to prosecute Bill Cosby back in 2005. That's that dude. I found that out, and I had to have lost a few neurons out of that. I'm like, that's the dude, the man who couldn't string sentences together for Citizen Trump's second impeachment. That's the guy. Bruce Castor was so bad at the opening statement for the impeachment that Republican senators had to go tell the legal team, "Don't worry about it. You're all safe, because we're going to vote for Trump one way or the other." That's the dude who told Bill Cosby, "Hey, tell us everything, but don't worry. This office will never prosecute you." That's the dude. Mind blown on that, everyone. That was me yesterday, trying to catch up with the, hey, Kendra, how you doing? Oh, here it comes. Why do burning churches make me smile? I'm not supporting arson. You're right, because that would be wrong. That would be wrong to support arson. And we don't do that here on this channel. Amongst all the Schadenfreude that the daily dose of Schadenfreude that we get. But burning churches, it's definitely not funny. It's definitely not karma, if there was any such thing. It's definitely not to feel good about. Fat Albert is free. Yeah. Okay. So just checking out before we go into Happy Canada Day. Happy Canada. We were just watching some of the hockey playoffs last night, and there was a rendition of "Oh Canada." I said, the version of "Oh Canada" from the '70s show, when the lads sing "Oh Canada," that's probably my favorite version of "Oh Canada." How do we sleep while the church is burning? I see what you did, the midnight oil reference there, like a baby, indeed. All right, Bill Cosby. Everyone, we have to talk about Bill Cosby. Here it is. Bill Cosby freed from prison. In case you've been under a rock for the last 24 hours or so, maybe 12 or 18 hours. Bill Cosby, the Quaalude King, the man, freed from prison, his sex conviction overturned. Now tell me if I'm wrong. I'm going to start talking to the microphone. It's Thursday. And yeah, this is my naked knee, by the way. I'm not wearing pants. I'm not going to tell you what I'm wearing, if anything. Listen, microphone. Right? I know we had this conversation years ago, before this entire the revelation of Bill Cosby being brought up on charges for rape. And I was saying, he was on a book tour. I remember him on Meet the Press talking about how young black men should be pulling up their pants. That was the whole point, everyone, of this book tour. Bill Cosby was on a book tour telling young black men to pull up their pants. And I said to myself, anyone who's really that fixated on telling other people what to do, anyone who is trying to be the moral voice, right, and wagging their finger, there has to be something wrong with them. There is something wrong with them in their brain and in their hearts. And it turned out in Bill Cosby's case with his penis, too. Philadelphia. This is from the Associated Press. Links in the description below. Pennsylvania's highest court threw out Bill Cosby's sexual assault conviction and released him from prison Wednesday in a stunning reversal of fortune for the comedian once known as America's Dad, ruling that the prosecutor who brought the case was bound by his predecessor's agreement not to charge Cosby. Did I mention that his predecessor was that Castor fellow, the same guy who did that terrible opening statement for President Trump? Yeah, that was the agreement, everyone. Cosby, 83, flashed a V for victory sign to a helicopter overhead as he trudged into his suburban Philadelphia home after serving nearly 3 years of a 3 to 10-year sentence for drugging and violating Temple University sports administrator Andrea Constant in 2004. Once again, Cosby is acting as if he's innocent. No, what he did, what happened is that on a technicality, he is a free man. It isn't like he's innocent. It's just a technicality. Cosby was arrested in 2015 when a district attorney armed with newly unsealed evidence, the comic's damaging deposition in a lawsuit brought by Constant, filed charges against him just days before the 12-year statute of limitations was about to run out. But the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said Wednesday that District Attorney Kevin Steele, who made the decision to arrest Cosby, was obligated to stand by his predecessor's promise not to charge Cosby, though there's no evidence that agreement was ever put in writing. Is there more to this story? Certainly. But I do want to see what the chat's talking about right now, in case it's Cosby related. All right. Here we go. All right. Going back in. Justice David Vecht, writing for the split court, said Cosby had relied on the previous district court's decision not to charge him when the comedian gave his potentially incriminating testimony in Constant's civil case. The court called Cosby's subsequent arrest an affront to fundamental fairness, particularly when it results in a criminal prosecution that was foregone for more than a decade. It said justice and fair play and decency require that the district attorney's office stand by the decision of the previous DA. The justices said that overturning the conviction and barring any further prosecution is the only remedy that comports with society's reasonable expectations of its elected prosecutors and our criminal justice system. You have to wonder whether or not the initial decision by then DA Castor was partially based on the fact that there's a 12-year statute of limitations. Now, it seems to be a rather arbitrary number of years in terms of rape cases, that you only have 12 years to bring up an allegation. Other states aren't like that. Many countries aren't like that. Is that a digression? I don't think so. I think that's a salient point. Let's go to the next slide. Even though Cosby was charged only with an assault on Constant, the judge at this trial allowed 5 other accusers to testify that they too were similarly victimized by Cosby in the 1980s. Prosecutors called them as witnesses to establish what they said was a pattern of behavior on Cosby's part. Cosby lawyers had argued on appeal that the use of the 5 additional accusers was improper, but the Pennsylvania High Court did not weigh in on that question, saying it was moot, given the finding that Cosby should not have been prosecuted in the first place. In sentencing Cosby, the trial judge had declared him a sexually violent predator who could not be safely allowed out in public and needed to report to authorities for the rest of his life. In May, Cosby was denied parole after refusing to participate in sex offender programs behind bars. He said he would resist the treatment programs and refuse to acknowledge wrongdoing, even if it meant serving the full 10 years. Unrepentant rapist. Questioned under oath as part of that lawsuit, Cosby said he used to offer, quote unquote, I'm going to put in quotes, air quotes there, to offer Quaaludes to women he wanted to have sex with. He eventually settled with Wisconsin for $3.4 million. Portions of the deposition later became public at the request of the Associated Press and spelled Cosby's downfall, opening the floodgates on accusations from other women and destroying the comic's good guy reputation and career. More than 60 women came forward to say Cosby violated them. All right. Well, the incompetent former DA, and the man was not only, here's the thing about Mr. Castor, lawyer Castor, citizen Castor, the man who not only, and you can tell exactly where his heart is and his head, is that not only does he decide to try to support fascist Trump, he incompetently did so. And that, I think, is enough to show you what kind of man he is, how he feels about life in general. That, yes, I'm going to support a misogynist and a fascist incompetently in front of the world. And oh yeah, by the way, did I tell you that I was the former DA who made this deal with Bill Cosby? Wow. Good morning, D. Parks. Good morning. Well, this is not the first case of someone with a lot of money in their pocket being able to expose the incompetency, a defendant, right, who is guilty, who exposes the incompetency of the prosecutors, the prosecutors, the team, the DA, right? If Bill Cosby didn't have enough money, for good or for bad, he wouldn't have been able to get to this point. And there's a lesson there. Maybe prosecutors should be competent. Maybe DA should be competent. The ACLU actually has a program out there to educate people, because sometimes DAs are elected, right? About what are good DAs and what are bad DAs. Money will buy more freedom than truth, right? And freedom in terms of getting out, avoiding charges. If he's that incompetent, can we call him incompoop? Yes, we can. All right. That was my first. Wow, only a slight rant from me in the microphone. That's pretty good. That was maybe bringing the party down. I want to make you all feel a bit better. No, we're not going to talk about burning churches. We're going to talk about Trump and Trump Corp being under fire, right? Let me just share this story with you, this video. Trump org CFO Alan Weisselberg surrenders to face charges. Oh, if that doesn't put a smile on your face, I don't know what does, everyone. All right, let's check out this video as I incompetently hit buttons.
Another big story we're following this morning. NBC News has learned a New York grand jury has indicted the Trump Organization as well as its longtime CFO, Alan Weisselberg. Two sources familiar with the matter confirmed the indictments to NBC News. And new this morning, Weisselberg has surrendered to the office of the Manhattan District Attorney. That happened a little after 6 a.m. Now, the specific charges were not immediately clear, but it is expected the indictment will be unsealed this afternoon, according to a representative with the Trump team. We do know that these are state charges, not federal ones, and therefore potential tax crimes. Let's bring in NBC News correspondent for investigations, Tom Winter, who's been up late through the night reporting on all these developments. So, Tom, these indictments are 3 years in the making. What do we know about the case?
Joe, I think this is going to be specifically tied to benefits in compensation off the books that Alan Weisselberg and others may have received as a result of their work for the Trump organization, and whether or not that was correctly accounted for. You can be bet if they're moving forward with an indictment, they're going to say that it was not correctly accounted for and properly handled. So that's where I think this is going to center around today. As you suggested, Alan Weisselberg is in fact at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. He turned himself in around 6:20 this morning. The Trump organization and Alan Weisselberg will be in court sometime around 2 p.m., we're told, according to a person familiar with the matter on the Trump side of things, later today. And at that point, we'll know the specific charges that they're expected to face, Joe.
So, Tom, do prosecutors want something out of Alan Weisselberg in terms of cooperation? And if so, what are they looking for here?
I think that's exactly where they're going with this, is kind of an opening salvo and an investigation that, as you said, is over 3 years old. It's been just a little bit over 4 months, 4 months and 7 days since they've gotten Donald Trump's tax returns. And really, Alan Weisselberg, as the chief financial officer, is going to be the person who knows why the Trump organization did what it did with respect to its finances, and that's where this investigation centers around. So if you're going to get somebody who's going to eventually perhaps cooperate, testify, provide information, Alan Weisselberg is really one of the keys to that.
And Tom, important to note here, former President Trump has not been indicted, but does he face perhaps any legal or financial trouble down the road?
Well, not today, but I mean, I think long term, that's going to be the ultimate question that we're going to have to try to figure out, Joe. And it's really up to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. What documents do they have, and what information can they get if it does, in fact, lead to Donald Trump?
And Tom, what other avenues are investigators looking at in terms of any other potential crimes?
You know, one thing we're not talking about today is something that Cy Vance and his attorneys said, the Manhattan District Attorney said in their court filings, which is this idea of bank fraud and potential insurance fraud crimes. They've included that in the past as something that they are looking into. They wouldn't say that if they didn't think those were avenues to pursue. So we haven't heard anything about that today. Again, just another indication why we think this investigation is going to continue far beyond today's indictment.
And we know you'll stay on it. Tom Winter, thanks so much for your reporting this morning. Appreciate it.
Hey, NBC News.
All right, that's a bit of good news about the legal issues that Trump and his people are facing. All right, going back to the old story about Bill Cosby, is there any way these women can still bring civil suits? Civil suits, as we all know, I'm not a lawyer, but I think most of us who have been involved here in the States or have looked at the news knows that civil suits, the criteria for bringing a civil suit and winning a civil suit is much lower than a criminal suit for a criminal charge. So I wouldn't be surprised if Cosby is still going to get peppered with lawsuits. Here it is. So the technicality that set him free is that he was not prosecuted when he was supposed to have been. How could that have been honored over protecting society from him? Am I on the wrong planet? What happened is that at the time, the DA decided that there wasn't enough evidence to put criminal charges against Cosby. But there was enough to strong-arm Cosby into making these self-incriminating statements about his interaction with women. So, due to those, and so Ms. Constant, she won her settlement against Cosby for $3.4 million. Those statements by Cosby were sealed. The next DA came out, saw that, hey, look at all this incriminating evidence. I'm going to screw Bill Cosby because he's a monster. And it was a risk. And, let's remember that Cosby was only sentenced for 10 years in prison, and he had to serve 3. They must not have been a very pleasant 3 years. And yes, Cosby should have been put away for life. So that's the story as I understand it. Tesla Ranger says, if you're shocked by Cosby getting out of prison, wait till you hear about Gates still being on the House Judiciary Committee, Kavanaugh still sitting on the Supreme Court, and Trump still hosting rallies. Indeed, Tesla Ranger. Well said. Well said. All right. let's go to the next story because it's already over halfway through the show. Let's do the halftime tummy rub show. Hey, I have it on my notes here that I should ask you guys to like the video, right? If you're on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, please like the video. If you're on Facebook, please head on over to YouTube and hit the like button. Maybe even subscribe to the channel, right? But we're going to do something funny before we go to the next story.
I get why humans have pets.
Why not? They're cute.
Does it catch mice?
She caught a mouse last night. She let him off with a warning.
Aren't they a hassle to take care of?
You have to clean their sewage, pay their medical bills, fund their catnip addiction.
Humans will literally do anything for a cute thing. Look at all your conservation stuff. You know, you guys are always saving koalas and penguins, but no one wants to save a walrus. No one wants to save a naked mole rat.
Well, yeah, those things are gross.
You know why I think humans have pets?
Why?
They're like a metaphor for life. It's a hassle to take care of, but it's a pleasant hassle. Well, that's life, isn't it? A series of pleasant hassles.
You wanna hold it?
Get that thing away from me.
Yep.
I think that's the most optimistic way that you can look at life, as a string of pleasant hassles. I don't know if I agree with that, but it's a great video. He makes great short bits, and I love the alien filter. And it had a cat in it. It had a cat in it. How can't that put a smile on your face, right? Fuzzy kitten, that's right. Cryptameria, hello. All right. Well, this is interesting. You know, they couldn't impeach Trump twice. Well, here's the thing about the utility of going after Trump constantly, right? You miss the shots that you don't take, right? I don't know who said that. Might have been a hockey guy, actually. So, and there is always, and I could get into various historical references. The first one that comes to mind is the Battle of Midway, but about just constantly peppering your enemy, right? You don't know which is going to be with attacks. You don't know which one is going to hit. Like Trump. Trump has the same strategy, by the way, of just constantly attacking people, and eventually something's going to land, right? So always being active, which the Democrats need to do, is an effective strategy. And, you know, maybe this one doesn't really do a knockout blow to Trump, but it still keeps him in. It energizes the base, too. It energizes the Democratic base. So it's effective in keeping people agitated about Trump and his allies, especially as we get closer to the midterms. All right. I think I'm up to date with everything. You want to do something? This is weird. This is a true story from Maine. Now, if you don't know New England, Maine is kind of like our Florida. A lot of shady stuff goes on in Maine, everyone. But let's take a look at this guy right here. Maine Man allegedly tried to use counterfeit money to pay bail. Some people think that's foolish. Other people, wow. I mean, this is just the one guy who got caught paying off his bail with counterfeit money. Maybe there's a bunch of other people who were able to pay their bail with counterfeit money, and that's genius, to tell you the truth. It's York County, Maine. A Maine man is accused of trying to use fake money to pay his bail. The York County Sheriff's Office arrested Michael Dishney on Sunday for an outstanding warrant for theft, and was taken to the York County Jail. According to deputies, Dishney, I'm going to pronounce it like that, claimed he had enough money for bail, so the bail commissioner was contacted. However, deputies say when he met with the bail commissioner, he gave 2 counterfeit $100 bills. Dishney was denied bail and returned to jail with an additional charge of forgery. Later that day, deputies say Dishney was able to post bail using authentic U.S. currency. You know, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, chat. His problem was that he used 2 large bills. I mean, when you have like $100 bill, I think people are going to check that. people check for like at $50 bills. So, and I don't want to give tips. I've never used counterfeit money. I don't think I have. I've never produced counterfeit money. There is a comedian in the Boston area who talked about the time that he got hold of a ton of counterfeit money. Great story. But I think the trick is if you're going to use counterfeit money, if you're going to produce counterfeit money, you don't use hundreds of 50s. You want to use smaller bills, I think. But I think that was, I mean, it was a great idea up until the time he got caught. I think that's the problem. Fake money for bail, and no one attempted to, yeah, right. All right. So that was a short story that I thought I found comical. And this dovetails into our next story about Maine, by the way. One policies that I've been advocating for years. They've been basically three things, right? Gay marriage, the legalization of marijuana, and the legalization of prostitution, or the legalization of sex work. I have lived to see mostly 2 out of 3 of those things. Sure, not every single state has legalized marijuana, but as we covered the other day, even Clarence Thomas, the Supreme Court justice, is saying, well, maybe the federal laws about marijuana don't make any sense. So I'm going to say 2 out of 3 of those things I've lived to see made into law. And perhaps, we're seeing sex work being decriminalized at the very least. But there was a small step backward. Where? In Maine, of all places. Maine governor vetoes bill partially decriminalizing prostitution. Governor Janet Mills said she wasn't convinced that the bill provided the best path forward for dealing with Maine's trafficking problem. See, here's the thing. There are people who just aren't for certain things, and they take the position of, if it isn't perfect, then I'm not going to sign on to it. And that's a way of being able to take a position, politically speaking, without taking a position. And we know a bunch of politicians do that. Let's take a look at this story. Maine Governor Janet Mills vetoed legislation that would have made the state the first in the nation to fight sex trafficking by partially decriminalizing prostitution. Let's look at that again. The first in the nation to fight sex trafficking by partially decriminalizing prostitution. I'm going to put on my free market big L libertarian hat for a minute, which I don't do that often, to tell you the truth. But if you decriminalize a certain thing, that means market forces for the black market start drying up, right? I mean, if you legalize marijuana, more than likely drug cartels, gangs, they will not be getting as much money from drugs when you do that. When you decriminalize sex work, that means by its very definition that the amount of the darker aspects of sex work are going to be brought to light. And it's a step forward for it to being managed. The measure, which passed the state legislature among party lines, would have reduced prostitution penalties for people who have been sold into the sex trade and provide them with social services and opportunities. It would have also increased punishment for pimps and traffickers who coerce often vulnerable people into underground work. Wow, that sounds like a bill anyone who's rational would get behind. It would have reduced prostitution penalties for people who've been sold into sex trade and provide them for services and opportunities. And it would have also increased punishment for pimps and traffickers who coerce people into the field. That would be something like, wow, who could be against that? The Democratic governor said she wasn't convinced that the bill provided the best path forward in dealing with Maine's trafficking problem. The state is a trafficking hub. where victims are recruited and sent to major cities down the East Coast, such as New York and Boston. Mills was swayed by divisions within the sex trafficking advocacy community over the legislation. While some hope this bill would protect the survivors of human trafficking, a goal I share, others fear that sex traffickers would use decriminalization of prostitution as a way to entice more people into their trade, she said in a letter to lawmakers explaining her decision, telling their victims that what they are doing is not a problem, a concern that I also believe is legitimate. This is what happens when you live in a society dominated by a history of Puritanism, puritanical Christianity. It is wow, we could try to make it better for some people, but we really can't do that. Anti-trafficking advocates have been lobbying state lawmakers across the country to adopt this equality model as the best approach to reducing stigma and helping victims feel safe coming forward. But so far, none of the laws has passed, and Mills' veto is a major blow to the movement. So there's, and I had, Caitlin Bailey, who is a former sex worker, now a comedian, and she's been on the show a couple of times about decriminalizing sex work. And really, that is the way of the future. We're going to see that within the next 10 or 20 years. Some state somewhere will decriminalize sex work, either partially or totally. Unfortunately, it looks like it won't be Maine. Let's see, just looking at this chat right now. Yes, sex work is still work, and people need to be protected. And let's face it, the only reason why, the real reason, right, the salient reason why sex work is still illegal here in the States, it's because of Christianity, right? Christianity was the only reason why gay people weren't allowed to marry. Christianity and white supremacy. Wow, who would have thought those two things would be entwined together? Were the only reasons why marijuana wasn't legal in this country, and still isn't in many areas. And once again, Christianity is the only reason why sex work is illegal. I don't even know the proper way to pronounce that, Scott Duke. I just muddle through names here. All right. If I'm, I think, well, why is it illegal to sell something that's legal to give it away for free? What my argument has been with when I talk to conservatives about sex work is that why would you have the state interfere with or dictate who can have sex with who? Like freely consenting adults, assuming that they are freely consenting adults. Why would you have the state interfere in that transaction, in that relationship? But that's the thing about conservatives, my friend, here in the States. They don't care about conservatism. They care about tribalism. They care about Christianity. That's what they care about. Prostitution is the oldest profession on earth and still unlawful. And why is that? Christianity, religion. That's it. And also, it's this strange thing about patriarchy, isn't it? Right? Is that if we actually made it legal, that means women would be able, or if sex workers would be able to have more control over the transaction, over the business. Glenn Chesterton says, I've said for years that it would be safer if prostitution was legal. There's no logical reason for it to still be illegal. Right. But we were talking about this yesterday in terms of Fahrenheit versus Celsius, right? On the after party after show. This makes no sense. Fahrenheit makes no sense. And that's the thing. As we've learned during the COVID disaster, right? During the pandemic, is that most people, most institutions are not based on logic or reason. It is just on precedent and inertia. All right. A lot of rants today, everyone. A lot of rants. It must be like Thursday, almost Friday. I'm talking to the microphone. I'm ranting more. You want to talk? You want to talk about burning churches? I got this video from West Coast Secular Dave there, and it's about another church being burned to the ground. Now, this video isn't a hip hip hooray kind of video. This video isn't celebrating churches, this particular historic church being burned down. But on the other hand, if there were, okay, I'm just going to show you the video, and you can make your decisions, right? You can tell me your feels in the chat and your thoughts. Let's do this thing. Share screen, Chrome tab. And let's check this out. A story about Canada on Canada Day.
Everywhere. A pillar of the community over a century years old, reduced to rubble overnight in a blaze. The police are investigating it as suspicious, and Premier Jason Kenney calls it a cowardly attack on the freedom of religion.
Just sadness, a lot of sadness.
Bourneville residents stopping by to pay their respects while surveying the damage at the 113-year-old St. John.
I just want to point out before we go through this video more that they got a white person to say about how sad it is. They didn't get anyone who's indigenous, anyone whose family might have been victimized by the residential schools that the church ran for years. In fact, if anything, I don't think there's even one indigenous person in this video, but I don't know. Let's keep a look at it. I just wanted to just pop off about that. All right, let's go to this. All right, here we go.
Baptiste Church. Fire crews were called shortly before 3:30 this morning. Help came from as far away as Edmonton, but it was too late. The parish was completely gutted. Investigators say it's suspicious a forensic dog was sniffing the church grounds Tuesday afternoon. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney had harsh words for whomever was responsible.
It is an attack on Canadian values.
The fire, not the first act of destruction to hit Catholic churches in the country in the wake of horrific recoveries of unmarked graves at the sites of former residential schools run by the church. Last weekend, the statue of Pope John Paul II at a downtown Edmonton church was vandalized with red paint and handprints, a symbol of missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada.
All right, so I just want to give whoever did that to the statue, whoever did that. Do they have a Patreon account? Do they have a PayPal account? I don't have a lot. But I would throw a couple of bucks in for that, because that is epic right there. Job well done.
Canada. But the premier doesn't see it that way. He's pledging government money to help secure places of worship.
What concerns me more deeply is this follows on other apparent recent acts of arson targeting a particular faith community.
While the church may be gone, the memories remain for local residents.
We were talking just the other day about the church bells, and
so that's just more white people going boo-hoo, boo-hoo about the churches burning down. That's 5 churches burned, everyone. How many churches is it going to take to burn down before Pope Francis apologizes for the cultural genocide in Canada, for his role in it, for the Catholic Church's role in it? How many churches need to be burned down? That's 5. Once again, Protestant denominations apologized in 1986 for their role in running these residential schools, where hundreds of kids died. Catholic Church hasn't apologized yet. All right. Wow, that was a little rant, Andy. That was a little uncalled for. But yeah, maybe more churches need to be burnt down. And now the freaking comments are frozen. But I can still see it on my second screen, everyone. I can still see your comments on the second screen. All right. It's 49 minutes into the show. What have we gone over so far? Bill Cosby and that idiot DA. We talked about Maine quite a bit, right? That Maine man who tried to pay his bail with 2 fake $100 bills. We talked about the Maine governor vetoing a bill that would partially decriminalize prostitution. Oh, and we talked about the Trump organization, the CFO for one of his groups being questioned by the DA. the noose is getting tighter around Trump. Hopefully, in churches, a newest church being burned down in Canada or Canada. Yes, I had to say it on Canada Day. Oh, it is heresy, I would say. All right, so now the chat's working again. Great. Simply Secular Dave says, maybe, well, it took 12 disciples, so maybe that many churches get burned down to the ground. Just, maybe we should talk about the church making an apology, and then we can start talking about reparations, right? How many churches does it take for an apology from the Catholic Church? More than 5, obviously. And how many churches would have to be burned before we start talking about reparations? More than 5, I'll say that. All right. You know what? I'm just going to summarize the last story here before I sign off. Mother Jones, good article in the description, everyone. Environmentalists take a sharp aim at Democrats. Climate compromise, weakened infrastructure bill will condemn Americans to untold devastation. Yes, the infrastructure bill, the compromise that Biden's working out or has worked out, which may or may not even pass, is it weak on the environment? Of course it is. There's a climate crisis going on. The last couple of days are just indicative of it, right? And so just take a look at the story if you want to, right? Because I'm closing down shop. I have neurons dying from all the news here. Though the church burnings does put a smile to my heart, to my face. Going to check out the chat one more time before I put a bow on this show. A boot. I see what you did there. All right. Well, Jessi Bear, this is exactly it. They're doing the poor me, poor me. We've been, not only is the Catholic Church some kind of international organization of kid fuckery, and I can say that because my video is not going to be demonetized anyway, right? Because I don't run ads here. If you want to contribute, if you like what I do, you can always throw me a super chat or become a YouTube member or a patron. So yeah, the Catholic Church, which has basically supported and nourished child fuckery for centuries at this point, and has been actively engaged in murdering kids and hiding their bodies. Now they want to give you the sob story that someone's burning down their property, their tax-free property. Fuck them sideways with a fucking claw hammer. Oh, here it is. Glenn Chesterton says, according to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, it's more likely that 4,000 to 6,000 dead natives in residential schools, dead native children. Indeed. You can burn down a church for each one of those dead kids. And that would still be not enough, in my view. All right. What are we doing? Drinking out loud this weekend? We are going to be doing some drinking out loud on Saturday, 5 p.m. Okay. So let's do something funny. Let's do something funny that isn't like rage-filled or Schadenfreude-filled. Something clean, some clean comedy, something that will make us feel good. Let's do that before signing off.
I used to wonder what it'd be like to have someone miss you while you went poo. But that was before I discovered owning dogs. When you commit to owning dogs, you can finally start receiving unconditional love from someone who can't even tell.
I gotta run. Got a call from work. Bye. Hello.